Sophia was sitting in Angelina's car as she told her that she would drop her off at the pack hospital. Angelina kept glancing at her from time to time, asking her if she was okay. Look, you are very young. Your family never lets you face the outside world, so you have no idea how dangerous people are. But I can tell you one thing. Many people in this world enjoy rejecting their mates, but your mate is really different. He still loves you. I just want him to be happy. He has seen many things in his life, but he never gave a damn about anything until he came to stop in front of you. I hope you will understand his love. Sophia's head was low as she stared at her lap. Tears kept falling, soaking her dress. When Angelina dropped her off outside the pack hospital, she thanked her and made her way to her mother's cabin. People around her kept glancing at her because of her broken look. When she reached her mother's cabin, she noticed the guards outside. They bowed to her. She nodded her head at them and entered the cabin. As soon as she entered, she saw her brother sitting beside the bed. She walked to the bed and looked at her mother. She did not look as pale as the night before yesterday. She looked like she was just sleeping, but peacefully. "She will be fine soon," Abraham said as he stood up from the stool. He signaled for her to sit there, close to their mother. Sophia sat down on the stool and stared at her mother for a while. "Mom, please wake up. I am very lonely. I don't know what mistake I made or what happened to me. I need you, Mom. Please wake up soon," she said in her head. She felt Abraham's hand caressing her head. "You need to calm down. Why does your face look so colorless? You are a new bride. You should look happy." Sophia looked at her brother. "You know I got married to your Alpha, right?" His hand paused as he nodded his head. "Yeah." They turned quiet as both of them turned at their mother. After some time, Abraham spoke up. "Mom did not have a heart attack naturally. Instead, she became ill due to someone else's actions." Sophia turned her head to look at her brother once again. She felt upset. She thought Brian did that so that she would marry him. Despite everything Mila and Angelina told her about Brian, she could not ignore the fact that he almost killed her mother. If he really loved her, he would not have risked her mother's life like that. "I know that," she replied. "You know? It's good that you know. Now, at last, your eyes have opened. That man is not a good man, but an animal. I wish I had gone to his pack before the wedding announcement. Things would have been different." Sophia frowned and rose from the stool. "Brother, who are you talking about?" Abraham looked confused. "Why did you ask that? Didn't you just say you knew?" Sophia grabbed her brother's hand and asked, "Brother, wasn't it Brian who made Mom sick?" Abraham's eyes widened as he snatched his hand away from her grip. "Have you gone insane? How did you even think that?" Sophia felt like everything inside was becoming lighter. It was like she had almost lost consciousness. She did not know why she was feeling like this. Maybe the truth was too much for her to handle. It was Victor Laurent who was responsible for Mom's condition. He tried to kill Mom, and Alpha Brian protected her. He even switched Mom's doctor to his private physician, who can only treat the head Alpha. It was Alpha Brian who saved Mom. If not, she would not have survived. Victor was after her life, so Alpha Brian sent all of his guards here to keep her safe. Sophia's eyes grew larger. Her lips trembled as she realized that she had been misunderstanding Brian. But he called his men in front of me and... Delta Edger told me about it. He just tried to scare you because there was no way to stop you from marrying Victor." Sophia blinked her eyes. She had no idea how many truths she was unaware of or how often she would have to feel guilty. Abraham hugged her and said, "I know I told you that Alpha Brian is a dangerous man, but I also couldn't believe it when he told me that he would marry you if I could get all of the signatures in time. But he promised me that he would not let you get into a bad hand." Sophia embraced her brother tightly and cried. She had promised herself a year ago that she would never cry, but now she could not even stop shedding tears. The whole day, Sophia was with her mother. Abraham told her that he would have to get back to work. When Sophia returned to the pack house, she saw no one in the living room. She assumed that most people in this house preferred to stay in their rooms. She asked a maid if Brian was back. She did not know how she was going to face Brian. "Alpha is in his office. Everyone is with him," the maid replied. Sophia sensed that something was going on in Alpha's office because everyone was inside. She made her way to Alpha's office and stood there, slightly opening the door. She noticed Brian sitting on a single couch with others standing around him. Mila's head was down as he stood next to his mother. It was a very large office room, and the door was located quite a distance away. Sophia fixed her gaze at them, trying to understand what was happening there. "Please, Alpha, accept my daughter as your mistress," Alpha Lucas said to Brian. Sophia's hands trembled as she opened the door wide. Everyone's attention was drawn to her, except Brian, who appeared to be aware of her presence. Sophia was shocked that an alpha like Lucas Laurent was asking Brian to make his daughter his mistress. "Why do you want that, Alpha Lucas? Don't you know some people really neglected the mistress's position?" Brian asked. Sophia felt his words directed at her. She felt terrible inside her heart. She did not know the reason. She used to think she had lost all feelings for Brian, so why was she upset when she heard someone was becoming his mistress? Was it because she learned all the truth? Or did she still have feelings in her heart for him? "I understand she can't be your Luna anymore, but even if she becomes your mistress, it will also be a blessing for her. She will be Alpha Brian's mistress. I can die peacefully after giving her to your hands. I will not have to worry about Victor coming for her, because he will never dare to hurt your woman, just like he never dared to hurt your mate." Sophia's brows lifted as she heard Alpha Lucas. She lowered her head because she thought Brian would make Mila his mistress, a position she had neglected before. She believed he would show her that another woman could love him and be his mistress without any greed to be his wife. However, she was shocked when Brian replied to Alpha Lucas, "I can't make her my mistress. My Luna doesn't like to share me with another woman." She could not believe how many times she had humiliated him, but he still considered her in his decision. She felt warmth when she realized that he really loved her, and that was the only reason he wanted her as his mistress. So now that she was his wife, he had no desire for anyone else. Sophia was about to enter the room to ask why Alpha Lucas was making such a request of Brian. However, her eyes widened when she saw Alpha Lucas kneel in front of Brian. Mila and her mother gasped. Brian's parents were also taken aback by his action. "If that's what you want, then I have nothing to oppose." Sophia could not believe her ears when Alpha Lucas spoke up again. "But please don't abandon the Moon Valley Pack. The people of that pack have been waiting for you for so long, because their real lord is not Victor, but you, Alpha Brian. He is the real lord of the Moon Valley Pack?" Sophia's voice was loud enough to make others turn their attention to her. She was no longer standing at the door. She entered the room and walked in. She directed her question to Alpha Lucas, who was still kneeling on the floor in front of Brian. Brian's eyes were fixed on Lucas. He got up from the couch and said, "The Luna of my pack has the right to know the truth." After saying that, Brian walked in Sophia's direction. Sophia gulped when she saw Brian not looking at her. He walked past her and left his office. Sophia turned her head to glance at his back. She stared at him until she heard Mila's voice, then turned her attention back to the people in the office room. "Dad." Mila and her mother, Bethany, rushed to Alpha Lucas and helped him stand up. Alpha Harry also approached him. Sophia could see Juliana was avoiding her gaze. She recalled Angelina's words to her. It seemed her words affected Juliana. Sophia walked towards Alpha Lucas, where she stopped in front of him and his family. "Why were you calling him your pack's lord? Why is it not Victor, but him? Is there something no one knows?" Alpha Lucas looked at Alpha Harry. He nodded in response to Alpha Lucas, indicating that he should tell her everything. Alpha Lucas let out a sigh and started to speak. "Since you have become the Luna of the pack, I can request that you change Alpha's mind. If you are asking about the mistress thing, then I apologize. I can't do anything about it. A mistress is not in a dignified position. It's a second woman's position between a married couple. I will forbid these rules once I get the power to handle the laws," Sophia replied with a strong tone. Everyone around her was taken aback by the way she replied. It almost looked like they were listening to an experienced Luna. Mila wiped her eyes and turned to the door. "Where are you going?" Bethany asked her. "Mom, I will come back soon, Please let me go now if you want me to stay alive, Mila replied. Bethany was stunned and let go of Mila's hand. Mila ran out of the office room while crying again. I am not asking about that. I am talking about the Moon Valley Pact, Alpha Lucas said to Sophia. I don't know anything. Please enlighten me a little. I was shocked when I heard your statement a few minutes ago. Why is that Pact's member waiting for Alpha Brian when they have their heir, Victor Laurent? Lucas glanced at Alpha Harry, then returned his gaze to Sophia again. He took a deep breath and said, Because, despite being the heir of that pact, Victor could not save his pact in the last war. It was Alpha Brian who saved our pact in the war. My pact members had seen how he fought our enemies. He saved us at the time when we almost accepted our defeat and nearly submitted to other alphas so that they could let go of our pact's people who were alive. Alpha Brian was one man who did not only show his fighting skills but also the power that the moon goddess only gave him. He did not want to join the war at first because he was careless at the time and did not have any care for other pacts. It was I who pleaded with him to save my pact, as my son had fled in fear of death, leaving his entire pact behind in the war. Sophia's eyes widened. So the Lord they always talk about is not Victor but Brian? Bethany nodded her head as she looked upset. I was the Luna at that time. Although my husband was a strong alpha, the way the young man saved us was truly miraculous. Even after saving us, he said he has no greed for power, and he had enough burden as he would have to rule his own pack, so he did not want our pack in return for his favor. Sophia could not be more shocked. She used to think that Brian was a power-hungry man, but it was totally opposite. He helped these people and did not want anything in return. Brian's father, Alpha Harry's voice, pulled her back from her thoughts. She turned to him when he began to talk. But that pact's members wanted him, and they started to call him their lord. Lucas and Bethany were really impressed by Brian. He won the pact, so they wanted to make Brian their next alpha. They wanted Brian to get married to Mila too. When they discussed the matter with Lucas's father, he rejected the proposal. However, the entire pact strongly disagreed with his decision, because they only wanted Brian as their head alpha. Sophia could see how proudly Alpha Harry talked about his son. Now she realized why Brian's parents obeyed him so much. It was because their son was not an ordinary alpha. He had already won a pact before inheriting his father's pact. It was only Juliana who was silent all the time. She silently shed tears, which surprised Sophia. My son was not like other boys. He has his own way to live. We managed to persuade him to be our pack's alpha, but that old man and his grandson destroyed my son's life. They plotted against my son and tried to ruin his reputation, Juliana said. Sophia understood that she was talking about rape allegations. She believed Brian could not do that. How did that happen? She asked as her heart became heavier. Then Alpha Lucas answered her question. Brian raised his voice against Victor before the war when he saw how he used to assault my daughter like a monster. I even hate calling him my son. So after the war, when everyone wanted Brian to be their alpha, Victor sent his mate to Brian. He was drunk, and no one knows what happened that night. The next day, that woman complained to my father that Brian raped her. My father agreed with her allegations without any proof and called Brian to the pack house as the rapist. Sophia took a step back when she learned that Victor himself sent his mate to another man's bed. How could a man do that? Alpha Lucas did not stop as he continued and finished her every curiosity to learn the truth. Alpha Brian arrived at our pack house like a king, and when he found out about the allegations, he claimed he did nothing and that it was Victor's and his mate's plan against him. My father, however, wielded some power at the time. He denied believing it and strated to prepare punishment. Then Alpha Brian didn't consider the fact that he wasn't in his own pack. He pointed his gun at that woman's forehead and shot her in front of us. Lucas paused for a moment before speaking. He stated that since no one believed him, he would gladly accept the allegations of murder rather than rape. Sophia was amazed by Brian's words that he had said to the Laurent family. She felt relieved that what she was thinking was right. I knew he could not do that, she thought in her heart. She was relaxed after learning everything. It was as if there were so many twisted things that she could not grasp and accept them a year ago. That one year really made her stronger. But she felt sad that she had been misunderstanding Brian all these times. She left the office room and headed to her and Brian's bedroom. Her steps were slow. She did not know if he was in the room. She wanted to apologize to him, ask him why he didn't trust her a little, and tell her everything a year ago. Then she remembered Angelina's statements, claiming that it would have just put her life in danger. He did not tell her anything because of her safety. She was about to reach the bedroom when a hand grabbed her wrist tightly and pulled her back a few steps. She turned her head and saw the man in front of her. Bruce. Bruce was looking at her with disappointment in his eyes. He looked very mad. She could say that by looking into his eyes. "Why did you marry my brother? Why did you even want to marry that dirty Victor a month ago? Why didn't you ask me just once? I would have married you without even caring about my family." Sophia frowned at him and asked, "Do you think I was looking for a groom who could marry me? I didn't know Victor would turn out to be a dirty man." He came close to her. She could not move backwards since he was still grabbing her hand. "Why did you choose my brother over me?" he asked, looking into her eyes. Bruce's eyes made her remember how many times this man asked for forgiveness, but she never returned to him. However, she remembered what Angelina and Mila had told her about 4 years ago. Brian had been in love with her for more than 4 years. She realized that Brian might really feel bad when he saw her with Bruce. Was it the reason he left early in Bruce's birthday party so that he could not face her? He sacrificed his love, and at the same time, he was forced to do it. Sophia took a deep breath and tried to break her hand free from Bruce's grip. "It's not about choosing. It's not a game, Bruce. He is my mate. I am bound to be with your big brother." Bruce's grip tightened around her wrist as he stepped closer to her. "How can I ever accept you as my brother's wife?" Someone interrupted Bruce by placing a hand on his shoulder. Bruce turned his head and saw Brian, glaring at him. Sophia was stunned. She struggled with Bruce's grip. She had always misunderstood Brian. Now she did not want him to misunderstand her. Brian glanced at Sophia's hand, which Bruce was holding firmly, then said, "Leave her." Sophia felt exactly the same as the night when she realized that he was her mate. That night, just like this time, he told Bruce to leave her. "But brother, I am talking to her," Bruce replied, refusing to let go of her hand. Brian grabbed Bruce's wrist and yanked it away from Sophia's hand. He then pushed Bruce's hand and stood before Sophia, blocking Bruce's sight to see her. Sophia looked at Brian's strong back, shielding her from his brother. "Brother, you betrayed me. You married the woman I love. How can you do that to your own brother? You never loved me. You always came between me and my ways. You got the pack under your rule. I never said anything. Then you snatched the woman I loved. How can you get everything while I have nothing? Why is it so unfair?" Sophia shook her head. Bruce did not know how much his brother loved him. He even sacrificed his love for him years ago. Sophia knew how much Brian cared for his brother. She had seen that when she used to be his secretary. Sophia was about to say something to Bruce. But before that, Brian warned Bruce, "Think whatever you want. I don't care. But stay away from my wife. If you dare to touch her again, I will forget that you are my brother." Bruce's eyes widened. Sophia parted her lips with surprise. She felt warmth in her heart when Brian called her his wife. Brian grabbed her hand and opened the bedroom's door. They got into the room. As soon as Brian closed the door, he let go of Sophia's hand. She stared at her hand for a while. She could still feel his touch on her hand. She raised her head and saw him going to the bathroom. After a few minutes, he came out wearing casual clothes. Sophia was almost lost when he looked at him carefully. He was a strikingly good-looking man. No matter how long she stared at her, it was nothing. He grabbed a bottle of wine and a glass, then went to sit on the couch. She was worried when she noticed that he was drinking a lot lately. She had never seen him drink so much before. In truth, he was a chain smoker who drank less. He did not look at her and ignored her as if she were not in the room. She sighed and went to the closet to get something to wear. She found a lot of night dresses. She grabbed a nightgown and went to the bathroom to change her clothes. She decided to talk to Brian about everything tonight. When she walked out of the bathroom, she saw Brian still drinking. She bit her bottom lip, wondering how she would approach him. With slow steps, she walked toward him, but he did not give a glance at her. As he was about to pour another glass of wine, Sophia held his hand, which was holding the bottle. "Don't drink too much," she mumbled in a low tone. Brian ignored her words and tried to move his hand, but she gripped it tightly. She did not want him to drink. It was her responsibility, as his wife, to stop him. But Brian was not the man who would listen to anyone, so he yanked his hand away from her grip. However, it caused Sophia to lose her balance and fall directly into his lap. Sophia's eyes widened when she found herself sitting on Brian's lap. She slowly raised her gaze from his chest to his face. She gasped as soon as she saw him looking at her. His dark eyes captivated her, as she felt her heart melt inside. Her expression began to change from surprise to upset. She realized that she had missed the Brian she knew. She missed the Brian who used to treat her like a princess. A frown formed between his brows as he asked, "Now, don't you feel disgusted? You are sitting on my lap." Sophia stared at him without letting out anything. She did not want to move. She understood that if she missed this chance tonight, she would not get another chance to speak with him. She let out a shaky tone and said, "Mate." Brian's frown did not ease as it deepened, but he did not push her away. "You are just my Luna, nothing else," he replied with a cold tone. She did not mind his words, as she felt that he had a right to get mad at her. She shook her head and placed her hands on his chest. She felt a calm heart under her palm. She could feel it running steadily. She often wondered why it never ran like hers. That was because he knew how to control his heart. Brian's gaze moved down to her hand and then returned to her. "What do you want?" She exhaled and mumbled while looking at his chest. "I know you are angry with me." He scoffed at her and grabbed her hands, then pushed them away from his chest. "I heard Angelina explain everything to you, and you recently learned about the Moon Valley Pact from Alpha Lucas. So what happened suddenly? Changed your perception of me? Oh, how convenient." His words pierced her heart, but she accepted the pain. She deserved it. She looked at his face, which was mocking her. She stared at him, letting him mock her as much as he wanted. She remembered how she used to love him. Did she still love him? "I just want to apologize to you for what I have done in the last 1 year. I shouldn't have revealed your business secrets. I shouldn't have doubted your intentions. I shouldn't have thought that you made my mom sick. I shouldn't have thought that you ruined Victor's life." He cut her off as he wrapped his arm around her waist and pressed her chest against his. "That man's name can't leave your mouth, huh?" he asked, gritting his teeth. It was clear that he was enraged by just hearing Victor's name from her mouth. The day when he confessed his love to her came to her mind. That day, he treated her softly and asked her not to leave him. He begged her not to marry Victor. She wishes she had believed him that day and not shattered his heart. "I want to tell you that." She struggled to find the right words to express her thoughts. She paused for a moment before continuing. "That night at the party, I tried to push him when he kissed me. I didn't enjoy his kiss. I wanted to push with all of my strength, but before that, you came and misunderstood me. I was mad at you and took his side in the fight." His grip loosened when he heard that. As if the rage had calmed a little, his expression turned less fiery. He looked away from her and unwrapped his hands from her waist. "Go to sleep. I will sleep on the couch." She looked at him with confusion. "But why?" "Because I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable like last night. You are here to fulfill the Luna's duty. Just do it. I will give you the respect that you should get as the Luna of this pack, just as I said when you signed the contract." Sophia slowly got up from his lap while looking at him. "That means I am just your Luna from now on." He turned his gaze to look at her. "Yes. You don't love me anymore?" "I hate you, Sophia, just like you hate me," he replied with a sly grin. She had the intention of talking to him about everything tonight, but she got mad after hearing him. "You think everything is my fault? If you had told me everything, every truth, when you asked me to be with you 1.5 years ago, things would have been different from this." Brian raised a brow as he asked, I only tried to save a foolish woman whose life could be in danger by learning the truth. Yes, it was all my fault. I shouldn't have fallen for her in the first place." She clenched her jaw. She was mad at herself. She wanted to slap herself for not trusting Brian in the past. He was only protecting her from the forbidden laws. She lowered her head and asked, "I was in the dark. What would I have thought when someone asked me to be the second woman in his life? I wanted to be with you as your wife, not a woman who had no holy relationship with you. If it's all my fault, then I am sorry." Brian averted his gaze away from her and poured a glass of wine. "I admitted to you just now that everything was my fault. Now go and sleep. From tomorrow on, you will have to take care of all the responsibilities of a Luna. You will be declared Luna of this pack tomorrow." Sophia felt upset that Brian did not want to talk to her. She felt defeated and did not want to make him angry. She went to the bed and sat down. She noticed Brian looking at her while drinking. His eyes moved to her neck. She touched her neck and asked, "What?" He did not reply, so she stood up and went to check it in the mirror on the dressing table. She was stunned when she saw the hickeys. Her face turned red when she recalled last night. She did not despise his touch, but she was stuck on one thing, that he had hurt her mother. If she had known the truth, she would have never stopped him from getting close to her. She glanced at Brian through the mirror and saw him looking away from her. He chugged down the whole glass and went to the bed to get a pillow and a blanket. When he laid on the couch and closed his eyes, she let out a sigh and went to bed to sleep. Though she slept on the bed alone, her eyes were on him. Early in the morning, Sophia woke up to the loud sounds of someone knocking on the door. She was startled and sat up on the bed. She saw Brian also wake up from the loud knocks. He went to the door and opened it. Rosa was outside the door. "Alpha, please come into the living room, Miss Mila." She paused as if she had no words to explain, so she uttered, "Please come fast." After saying that, Rosa bowed nervously and left hurriedly. Brian rushed out of the bedroom to see what had happened. Sophia did not know what to do, so she grabbed a scarf from the closet and hurried out of the room. She had no time to waste since something serious happened. When she reached the living room, her eyes widened. Mila was crying while hugging Brian, but it was not what shocked Sophia. She was astounded by the mark on Mila's neck. "Who marked you?" Brian's angry voice shook everyone around them. At the time, Bruce entered the pack house with his head down and said, "It's me, brother. I marked her." Everyone in the pack house was shocked. They could not just believe that Bruce could do something like that. Mila's mother, Bethany, put her hand over her mouth as she was crying for her daughter. Meanwhile, Juliana was taken aback. Sophia could not understand what had happened to Bruce. Why did he forcefully mark Mila? Brian let go of Mila and dashed toward Bruce. He punched him in the cheek and growled at him. "How dare you mark a woman without her consent?" Juliana screamed in fear when she saw her elder son punching her younger son. "Brian, please let him go," she cried out. Alpha Harry grabbed her hand to stop her from approaching Brian. He said to his wife, with anger in his tone, "He deserves this. We did not teach him this." Alpha Lucas was silently observing Brian and Bruce. He was distressed for his daughter. "Brother, I was drunk. I didn't know how." Another punch. Blood came out of Bruce's cheekbone as if it were almost broken by Brian's punches. Brian was about to hit him again when Sophia ran to him and held his hand to stop him. "Please, calm down." Brian balled his fist when he sensed her touch. He closed his eyes to suppress his rage, which was impossible for him. He yanked his hand away from her grip. Sophia took a step back from his action. She could see how he looked mad at his brother. His eyes shone red, which showed he was furious. "I promised her father that I would forever protect her from his son. But you are my own brother who betrayed me. How could you mark her?" Brian asked angrily. Bruce lowered his head. Sophia clenched her jaw as she looked at Bruce. She also felt mad at him. "Answer your brother. Why did you do that?" Bruce raised his head and looked at Sophia. "Sophia, believe me, I didn't want to." Brian grabbed his collar and growled, "You can't just go anywhere and mark a woman, then play the victim card like this. If the women in my pack are not safe for my family, how can I give them protection from outsiders?" Sophia stared at Brian. She used to think that he really loved his family, so she assumed that if his family ever did anything wrong, he would not punish them. But Brian turned out to be a devoted alpha who loved his pack and his pack members. She realized why the Moon Valley Pack wanted him and why Alpha Lucas was adamant about making his daughter Brian's woman. "Brian, please, don't punish him. Save him," Juliana said, walking to her son to let him go. "Brother, please forgive me. I had no idea how she got to that room last night. I was drunk and went to a private room in the club, but she went inside and everything turned blank. I could not remember anything else." "You heard him. He was drunk. Please, my son." Juliana requested Brain again. Sophia turned to Mila, who was crying in her mother's arms. "May I ask why you entered that room?" Mila looked at Sophia and asked, "You think I am at fault?" Sophia shook her head in response. "No, I didn't say that. I am just asking." With a loud cry, Mila dropped to her knees. She then spoke out in a broken voice. "I was upset last night and went to the club to ease the pain that I was feeling in my heart. But there I saw him, Victor." Everyone was stunned. They thought Victor had already left the night after the meeting. "He was the one who forced me to go inside the room. I begged him that I did not want to go anywhere. But he threatened that if I refused to go inside, he would force me to go to any room with him. To get away from him, I went into the room, only to find Bruce there. He looked drunk and he—" Sophia looked away from Mila when she saw her crying. She was also a woman. She could feel the pain. However, more than the pain, she felt disgusted inside her heart. A blaze of rage burned inside her for Victor. Ever since her marriage to Brian, she had been discovering Victor's true nature. Bruce held his brother's hand and said, "Brother, I am telling you, I was just drunk, but I could not recall much. My body was becoming more heated, and I was getting thirsty. Someone must have mixed something into my drinks. It must be something else other than the effects of alcohol." Brian looked at his brother. He reflected on his past experiences. Victor did the same thing with him too. Victor sent his mate to his room, and she accused him of raping her. However, at that time, things were different. He did not rape Victor's mate, and his plan failed. But here, Mila was innocent. She should get justice. However, Bruce was not entirely at fault. He let out a deep sigh and turned to Alpha Lucas. "I will give your daughter justice," Brian declared, causing Alpha Harry and Juliana's eyes to widen. After glancing at Mila, who looked at him with teary eyes, Brian said, "I will announce my decision tomorrow. I will see what I can do about it." After saying that, Brain left the pack house with an angry look. Sophia felt terrible in that situation. She wanted to go to Mila to console her, but she thought Mila would not like that. Juliana approached Sophia and held her hand, which shocked her. "Please save my son. As you heard, it was not his fault." Sophia glanced at Juliana's hand and felt that Juliana was selfish. She only came to her when she was in trouble. Before that, she was a bad woman in her eyes. Sophia slowly removed her hands from hers and mumbled, "I will try to talk to your elder son about it. Until then, please take care of Mila. She needs everyone's support." She then made her way upstairs to the bedroom she shared with Brian. She took a quick shower and changed her clothes into a gown. She noticed the hickeys had faded, which gave her relief. She hurriedly left the room and went downstairs. She saw that everyone was still there. She saw all the officials there except her brother. She walked to Delta Edger and asked, "Where is your Alpha?" "He is in the training hall. He is all alone. He told everyone to leave him alone." Sophia gave it some thought before leaving the pack house to see Brian in the training hall. When she arrived in the training hall, she noticed it was completely empty. Her gaze wandered around before falling on Brian. His wet locks indicated that he had a bath a few minutes ago. He was shirtless and wearing training pants at the bottom, which reminded her of the day she stabbed him. Brian was punching a wall with both of his hands in a fit of rage. Sophia went to him and grabbed his fist when he was about to punch the wall again. He shut his eyes and groaned, "Not again." Sophia noticed his knuckles were swollen. She rubbed his knuckle while looking at him. "Why are you hurting yourself?" Brian glared at her and replied, "That's none of your business." His words really hurt her, but it was her business. She really cared for him. She knew she hurt him once, but that was out of misunderstanding. Now that she knew the truth, she felt even more hurt whenever she saw him hurt. "I am your Luna. It's my business," she replied. He looked away from her. "Go back to the pack house or go to visit your mother. I'm not in the mood for an argument right now. Just leave me alone." Brian turned around to leave her side. At that time, Sophia's eyes turned ocean blue, as she wanted him not to leave her. So she grabbed his arm and turned him around to face her. "Why don't you just leave?" Brian paused when his eyes met her ocean blue eyes. He seemed to be frozen. She took a step toward him and asked, "What do you think of me? You cannot just pull me close to you and tell me you love me, only to push me away from yourself whenever you want. I am your mate and your wife. I will never leave your side, even if you want me to." Brian stared at her for a long time. She did not break eye contact either. Her wolf wanted to take over to get closer to her mate, as she wanted to shift and run with her mate. Brian averted his gaze from her and spoke, "Sophia, just go, leave me alone." He took a few steps back. She frowned at his actions. Her eyes moved to his chest. Though his wound had healed, she could see a few stitches there. "You are mad at me for what I did to you that day, right? You want to hate me? How long will you continue like this? 1 year? Just like I did?" she asked, approaching him. He took another step backward. With an angry expression on her face and rage in her ocean blue eyes, she pushed his shoulder. "Let's fight. You can defend yourself by hitting me. Let's end this battle today." After saying that, she turned around to kick his leg, but he dodged it. She initially planned to hit him lightly in the hopes that he would hit her hard, but as seconds passed, she became engrossed in the fight. She was surprised to learn that Brian was aware of every move she was about to make. How was that possible? As if it were not Ken but him who taught her to fight. She tried to show her fighting skills as she continued to attack him, and he continued to dodge. He smirked as if he was enjoying the fight, despite the fact that he was only demonstrating his defense. "How do you know my next moves?" she asked, attempting to punch his arm. He grabbed her hand and spun her around, pressing her back against his hard chest. She tried to move, kick from behind, hit his stomach with her elbow, and all, but she was unsuccessful, because he successfully dodged her every attack. She huffed and leaned her head back against his chest. Her body was sweating because of the fight, and the gown she was wearing was not helping her. She closed her eyes for a while, holding his arms, which were wrapping around her waist. She felt calm after a while of being that way. When she opened her eyes and saw how near they were, a smile crossed her face. She raised her head to glance at him. She saw him staring at her. She blinked her eyes when he was about to unwrap her waist. She immediately turned around and hugged his torso tightly. "Why are you punishing me like this? I said sorry to you. Let's end this, okay?" He looked at the blank wall behind her as his hands rested beside him. He did not reply to her. She lifted her head and looked at him. Something crossed her mind, and she asked, "Did you order Ken to train me?" His eyes remained motionless as hers widened. So he was the one who instructed Ken to teach her how to fight? She grabbed his cheeks and made him look at her. "Why were you not telling me about all the things you were doing for me?" "Only if you told me." He interrupted her, moving her hands away from his cheeks, and said, "I don't want to talk about these things again. It is better to forget about the past." She saw him heading to the changing room, and she shouted behind him, "You thought I was a weak Omega and could not handle your truths. It is because you have never seen my wolf. I saw Angelina's surprised reaction. Why are you not surprised like her after seeing my eyes?" Brian's steps halted. He turned around and asked with a frown, "What do you think about me? Who am I in your eyes?" She could not understand his question. "What?" "The first time you called me mate, I saw your eyes that night. And do you really think I left you 1 year ago thinking that you were a weak Omega who would die heartbroken? I knew you were strong. I knew you would handle and protect yourself without me." Her eyes grew larger. "Do you mean you knew that I was the one who—" "Yeah. I knew you were the one who hurt the rogues. Otherwise, why do you think I caged them in my pack? They are rogues. I would be pleased if they flew away from my pack. But I locked them up so that no other alpha would learn about you. If they had learned, they would have come behind you to use you for their packs." So you knew everything from the beginning and always protected me behind my back all the time. Sophia said that and felt rage inside. She was angry with herself for not loving him as much as he loved her. She believed she could not compare his love to hers, because she dared to stab his chest, but he never wished to hurt her for once. She clenched her jaw and took steps backward. You were right. I don't deserve to be your Luna. How can I stand beside a man who always thinks about others before thinking about himself? How can you stand beside me, who only thinks about herself? I am a selfish person who almost killed you in revenge for a heartbreak. She turned and stormed out of the training hall. She was upset with herself. She wanted to go into the forest and run for a while. Now she understood why her wolf was always trying to take over. It was because she knew their mate loved them. She was always trying to make her aware of this, but she ignored it. After some time of walking, she noticed Brian's car coming in her direction. She let out a shaky breath, thinking about how much he cared about her. He still sent his driver for her. Luna, get in the car. Everyone in our pack now knows that you are our Luna. Beta Robert made the announcement to the entire pack today. You need protection to go anywhere, Brian's driver said, opening the door for her. She got in the car and decided to calm herself and not go to the forest today. Then take me to the pack hospital, she said to the driver. On the way to the hospital, her eyes were fixed outside the window. She did not want to cry anymore. She was angry because she thought she had stopped loving him. She was angry because she considered exacting revenge on him in the past. She closed her eyes and leaned back against the seat. Loving someone doesn't mean hurting them when they break your heart. Loving someone means letting them go and watching them happy from a distance, she told herself. Brian taught her the meaning of love. Suddenly, her brows furrowed. She came to the realization that everything was happening because of Victor Laurent. If he had not plotted against Brian 5 years ago, Brian might have approached her normally, and they would be together. She remembered how Mila cried today. Victor did not only ruin Mila's life, but also destroyed Bruce's life. She did not know how many more crimes that man had committed that she had yet to learn about. When she arrived at the hospital, she went to see her mother. She sat beside her and looked into her closed eyes. She held her hand and mumbled, "Mom, please wake up." She felt her mother's hand move beneath her grip. She was stunned, and she hurriedly stood up. She looked at the nurses who were present in the room to observe her mother. She just moved her hand. "Call the doctor immediately." They rushed to call the doctor and came back with him. The doctor checked on her mother, and after a while, her mother opened her eyes. Sophia cried in happiness. "Mom!" At that time, Abraham also entered the cabin and saw the situation. Sophia smiled at Abraham and said, "Look at Mom, brother." Their mother looked at them and tried to raise her hands, which both of them grabbed immediately. The doctor took the oxygen mask from Hannah's mouth and said, "Congratulations, she is awake. Please try to talk to her calmly. Remember, no more tension." He and the nurses helped Hannah sit up. He then injected her with a dosage and told the nurses about the medicine. "Thank you, doctor," Abraham said to him. The doctor shook his head at him. He glanced at Sophia for a moment, then said, "Thank Alpha. He saved your mother." The doctor was about to leave the cabin after he was done, but then he paused and bowed to Sophia, which caught her off guard. "It's nice meeting you, Luna. Please call me anytime. I am always ready for your and Alpha's service." Sophia could not help but nod at him. When the doctor left, she turned to face her mother. She was looking at her and asked, "Did I hear right? He called you Luna." Her mother's low voice could make her feel weak, but she knew she would get her health back very soon. Abraham told Hannah everything, trying to avoid anything that could hurt Hannah or her health. Hannah's face brightened as she hugged her daughter. "I never liked that Alpha Victor. Moon Goddess listened to me and saved my daughter by making you Alpha Brian's mate." Abraham inquired if Victor had done anything to her before she began to feel weaker. Hannah stated that Victory had arrived at their house, carrying Sophia. They had a talk about his and Sophia's wedding. Abraham tried to get her to remember if he had given her any medicine or something. But then Hannah remembered that she had made 2 cups of coffee while talking about Sophia. He asked for sugar, so she went into the kitchen. Then they had a normal conversation. Sophia and Abraham both came to the realization that Victor had mixed something in their mother's coffee and managed to make her sick. After spending time with her mother, Sophia left the cabin in the afternoon. She thought about going back to the pack house. While passing a few cabins downstairs on her way to the entrance, her gaze was drawn to a cabin with the door slightly open. Her legs froze when she saw who was lying on the bed. She immediately went inside. Rose! The girl was staring at the ceiling like a lifeless body. Sophia could see the bite marks on her neck and her thighs. Because they were visible due to medication applied to the wounds, the nurse rolled up her hospital gown. Sophia dashed over to Rose and held her hand. "What happened to you, Rose?" Rose slowly turned her head and looked at Sophia. "Sister?" Rose questioned it, as she could not believe it was really Sophia. Her eyes were empty and blank. However, when she heard Sophia's voice again, her eyes welled up with tears and she immediately sat up. She hugged Sophia tightly and started to cry. Sophia could not stop her own tears. She rubbed Rose's head and asked, "What happened to you, Rose? Who did this to you? Why are you here? Does Mr. Davidson know you are here? Why are you alone?" Sophia asked so many questions as her mind was not working after watching Rose's condition. No. Sir doesn't know about me. I did not contact anyone at the orphanage. I am embarrassed to call and tell them anything. I don't want to live anymore, sister. Please kill me." Sophia's hand froze on Rose's head and she asked, "Tell me who did this to you. I will not let them go." Rose sobbed and raised her head to look at her. It was as if she was afraid that Sophia would not believe her. Alpha v. Victor." Rose told everything to Sophia. She said that Alpha Moen sent his men to exact revenge on her because he lost his legs for her a year ago. He sold her to Alpha Victor for one night. Sophia clenched her fists in anger. Her nails dug into her palm as she could not control herself. She almost growled in anger. Victor did not just commit a crime, but he also committed sin. He was a sinner who kept ruining people's lives, including hers. I have heard he always purchased underage girls and ruined their lives like that. He even told his officials to use me in the same way he did. But then something happened, and they did not come for me after him. I almost died that night because they threw me into the forest so that hungry male wolves could use me and kill me. But some kind people noticed me and felt sorry for me. They admitted me into this hospital. Sophia was completely speechless. She felt horrible for Rose. "I know you are going to marry that man. Please don't marry him, sister. Believe me, I am not lying. Look at this. He did all of this to me." She lowered her gown from the neck to reveal her upper breasts. Sophia's eyes widened as she saw how mercilessly that man had bit her here and there. "He is not a man, sister. He is a monster. Please cancel your wedding with him. He will ruin your life." Rose kept blabbering as she thought Sophia was going to marry Victor. She did not know what had happened the last few days since she did not leave the hospital. She was unaware of today's announcement that Sophia had become the Pax Luna. "I married your Alpha, Rose. I married him, not Victor." Sophia told her to calm her. Rose paused as she looked at her with a shocked face. "You married Alpha Brian?" "Yes." Rose hugged herself again and continued to cry her heart out. Sophia shed tears as she felt her pain. She remembered how Mila cried today. She wondered if Victor had tortured her like that in the past. She remembered what Alpha Lucas had said to Brian. "It was just because I was Brian's mate. Victor never dared to hurt me. That means he would have also done the same with me later." She thought as she remembered how Victor's officials were looking hungrily at her in the pre-wedding party. She closed her eyes in anger and said, "Don't lose your hope to live again." Rose shook her head. "I don't want to live." Sophia cupped her cheeks and said with a cold tone, "I promise you, I will not let that man live. He will have to get his punishment for what he has been doing all these years. I will give you and all the girls justice." Rose requested that she not say anything to Brian because she was embarrassed to let any man know about it. Sophia promised her not to tell Brian and told her that she would take revenge on Victor on her own. When Sophia returned to the pack house, it was late at night. She was really in a bad mood. She would keep Rose's matter to herself. But she wanted to share with Brian about Victor purchasing young girls. She felt deep hatred for Victor, and right now, she just wanted to kill that man. In her eyes, that man did not deserve to live. She noticed Juliana and Bethany in the living room. They glanced at her when she walked in. She stopped and asked, "Is everything okay?" She thought Mila was not okay, but Juliana spoke up. Brian got a notice from the council. Sophia frowned as she walked toward her. "Council? What do they want?" As per the rules of the council, they sent a reminder notice to Brian about the law of the Nightshade pact. They claim they have a complaint that you are not Brian's mate, but rather someone he secretly rejected and killed. So they want Brian to mark you as soon as possible. Sophia was dumbfounded. "I am not his mate? Who complained about it?" Then she understood who could do these kinds of things. It was Victor, for sure. "You know who can do that. Your father-in-law talked to Brian about it. Now I'm telling it to you too. You both should finish the mating process so that we can prepare for the crown ceremony as soon as possible," Juliana said. Sophia's brows were lifted when Juliana referred to Alpha Harry as Sophia's father-in-law. Did she finally accept her as her daughter-in-law? Sophia glanced at Bethany and asked, "How is Mila?" "She is fine. I know what happened to her was wrong. She is more afraid of Victor. She was crying this morning because she faced Victor last night. She said she almost lost consciousness when Victor threatened her," Bethany replied. Sophia understood that Mila was not afraid of Bruce's mark, but she was scared after meeting Victor alone again. After seeing Rose's condition today, she could understand how Mila had felt. "How is your mother?" Juliana asked. Sophia turned to her and replied, "She has woken up. The doctor said she is fine now." Juliana nodded her head at her. Sophia could see a glimpse of Julena, who used to talk to her sweetly and softly when Sophia was Bruce's girlfriend. It was as if she was slowly becoming normal. Sophia went upstairs to the bedroom. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Brian standing near the window. He was in deep thought. She closed the door and walked toward him. "I need to talk to you about something," she said, as she wanted to talk about the girls. "If you want to talk about me marking you, then stay away from me tonight. My wolf is out of control today. I don't know when he would mark you without asking for your consent. I don't want to make a mistake like Bruce," Brian replied without turning to her. Sophia paused and stared at his back for a while. Why was he saying that? Did he not want to mark her? Did he think she still hated him? She approached him and hugged him from behind. She rubbed her nose against his shirt and mumbled, "Without my consent? What if I give you my consent, Alpha?" Brian turned around to face her. Sophia raised her head and gasped when she saw his red eyes. They appeared different from other times. When his brows wrinkled, she almost took a step back. It was his wolf. He let his wolf take over him in front of her for the first time. In a blink of her eyes, he pressed her against the wall beside the window and looked into her eyes. She did not let her wolf cage anymore. She let her take over as well. Her ocean blue eyes shone as they met his red eyes. He leaned down at her and asked, "Are you sure, my Omega?" His voice was huskier, shivering her from inside. "Yes, my Alpha," she replied, wrapping her hands around his neck. She thought he would kiss her, but he leaned against her neck directly, and his sharp canines came out as if he could not wait for other things to mark her. She closed her eyes and caressed his hair, letting him do whatever he wanted to do with her. She was all his. However, as soon as his canines touched her neck, Brian immediately pulled away and stared at her neck. He did not mark her because there was something wrong. He took over his wolf and came back to his senses. His eyes turned black as he looked at her neck with wide eyes. Bloodlines appeared on her neck where his canines had come into contact. The bloodlines turned black, as if there was poison spreading throughout her body. However, it faded after a few seconds. He turned his gaze at her face. She looked at him with confusion. "What happened?" she asked. His face turned nervous for the first time. He cupped her face as he asked, "Did Victor do something to you when you were with him?" Her eyes widened. "What are you saying? He never touched me." He shook his head. "I didn't mean that by asking it." "Then, is everything okay?" Brian glanced at her neck again, then closed his eyes to calm himself. He stepped backward and said, "Go to bed. It's late. You were outside the whole day. You need to take some rest." She was stunned. Why? Why don't you want to mark me? Don't you love me anymore? Her eyes turned teary. He clenched his jaw, seeing tears in her eyes. No matter how much Brian tried to stop loving this woman, just looking at her made him love her more. He could not just stay mad at her. Raising his hand, he placed it on her head. While looking into her eyes, he muttered, "You are a strong woman. Never forget that." She did not know why he was saying that. Her heartbeat fastened when he leaned in and kissed in the corner of her mouth. "Good night. Be a good girl and sleep." She smiled when he softened his tone toward her. As if she felt relaxed, she nodded at him and went to the bed. She lay down, covered her body with a blanket, and closed her eyes before glancing at him. On the other hand, Brian was observing Sophia. When he was certain she had fallen asleep, he exited the room and called Angelina. Angelina arrived at the pack house within an hour and entered the bedroom. Brian signaled her to Sophia and said, "Just check everything quickly. I don't want her to wake up and find out anything." Angelina grabbed Sophia's hand and pierced a needle into her arm. Sophia hissed in sleep briefly before settling down. Brian was relieved that she had not woken up. Angelina removed the needle from Sophia's arm. She pulled out a bottle of green potion from her bag. When she inserted the needle in the bottle, the green potion started to turn transparent. Angelina was taken aback. She turned her head at Brian, who was desperately waiting for her answer. Angelina stood up and said, "Alpha, when you called me and told me about the symptoms, I came with the potion that might have been injected into her body. The result is clear in your eyes. Did he dare to poison my woman?" Brian tightened his fists in anger. He had the urge to kill Victor right away. "Calm down, Alpha. It's not time to become angry. You have to make the decision with your mind. An angry man always makes the wrong decision." Brian turned to Sophia. He stared at her without saying anything to Angelina. After a while, he said, "Find out a cure to save her. I will burn that man alive if something happens to her." Angelina lowered her head and murmured, "There is no cure. I believe she is strong. I think she can take your mark, but you have to risk her life for that. Though I can't give you the guarantee of her life. She can stay alive without a mark, but marking her can endanger her life." Brian looked away from Sophia and returned his gaze to Angelina. "I will never mark her. She won't die. I won't let her die." "But Alpha, what about the notice from the council? It's very serious. If you don't mark her, they will strip you off from your position." Brian took a brief pause as if he were thinking about something, then replied, "I will settle everything tonight. There is no need to think about tomorrow." When Angelina and Brian left the room, the woman lying on the bed opened her eyes. Her eyes welled up with tears as she stared at the door. "Victor poisoned me when?" She tried to remember every interaction with Victor until her mind froze on the party night when he sent her home. She fell asleep without realizing it that night. She did experience a mild soreness in the nape of her neck the next morning. Did he inject the poison into her body that night? Anger causing her fists to clench around the bedsheet. "How long will you continue to hurt everyone like this? You were aware that Brian would somehow save me. That's why you poisoned me, so that he could never mark me. How cheap you are, Victor. I hate you. You hurt my mom. You hurt me, Mila, Rose, and who knows how many girls. I will exact revenge on you on behalf of everyone." Her eyes glowed with rage and radiated fire. She realized that it was the reason nowadays she started to feel weak. There were many times when she almost fell unconscious. She thought it was because she began to discover the truth, which was too much for her mental health. However, it was because of the poison. Sophia noticed that Brian did not return to the bedroom the whole night. She waited for the morning so that she could talk to Brian. That man refused to tell her about her health, fearing that she would become depressed if she found out. When the sun shone brightly, Sophia took a quick shower and dressed in a gown. She did not leave the bedroom first, as she tried to call her brother. She wanted to talk about it with him first. But when Abraham received the call, she was shocked. Sophia. It was not because of his voice, but because of the other voices around him. He felt as though many people surrounded him. "Brother, where are you?" "I can't hear you, Sophia. Alpha is speaking to everyone. I am right beside him. I will talk to you later." The call was cut off. Sophia looked at her phone for a moment before dashing out of the room. When she stepped out of the bedroom, she began to hear the sounds of people's voices. She held a maid's hand and inquired, "What is going on outside?" "Alpha is speaking with the pack members who have come here to oppose his decision about stepping down." Sophia's hands trembled as she let go of the maid's hand. "B. Brian is stepping down from his position?" Sophia ran to the second floor's enormous balcony, which was in the opposite direction from her and Brian's bedroom. She noticed a large number of guards stationed there. She caught a glimpse of Brian's parents. The guards bowed down to her as she approached the balcony. "Luna, let me see what's happening," she said to them. The guards stepped aside and let her go inside. She stepped out onto the spacious balcony where Brian's family was standing along with the officials. Mila and her family were also present. She closed her eyes to the noise. She opened her eyes and looked where the noises were coming from. She took a step forward and her eyes widened. There were so many people standing outside the pack house. Their gaze was fixed on the area where Brian was standing. "We don't want you to step down, Alpha. Give us a reason," the people chanted as they looked upset. A hand grabbed Sophia's hand, pulling her to the side. She turned her head and found Angelina. "What are you doing here? You should not be here. Let's go. I will take you to your room. I will be with you until the meeting is over." Sophia shook her head and pulled her hand out of hers. "I know why this is all happening. He is stepping down because of me. I can't let him do that." She was about to walk over to Brian when Angelina grabbed her hand and pulled her back again. "Don't be foolish." Tears rolled down when she turned to look at Angelina. "Please stop him. How can he do that? This position is his life." As though she were becoming sensitive to the circumstances, Angelina bit the inside of her lower lip. She looked away from Sophia and replied, "He loves you more than his throne. He can give up everything for you, Sophia." Sophia stared at Brian, who raised his hand, and everyone stopped talking. "I, Alpha Brian Morrison, am stepping down from my position." "No, Alpha, you can't do that." People began to speak again. Brian's officials were standing beside him, signaling for the people to calm down while looking down at them. Sophia could see that Abraham was there. "Don't worry, I will not let you all fall into bad hands. After me, my brother, Bruce Morrison, will run this pack. I believe he will prove to be a great alpha for you all," Brian said to the people. Sophia turned her head at Bruce. She saw him, lowering his head. "He is my younger brother. He has the same blood as me. He won't disappoint you all. Now he has his mate too. You all will have a good Alpha and Luna. They both are good people." Mila stared at Brian. Alpha Lucas looked pleased, as did his wife. But Brian's parents did not seem pleased since they knew no one could run the pack as well as Brian. At that time, Sophia rushed to Brian and grabbed his arm. "Don't do this, please," she mumbled to him. The people who had never seen their Luna before looked at her with a stunned expression and spoke out with excitement. "Is she our Luna?" Brian immediately pushed her behind him and turned his head toward her. "Why are you here? They should not see you." "Why? Why can't they see me? Why are you giving up everything?" "It's not fair, Brian. I am already feeling guilty about everything. If you do this for me, I can never forgive myself." Abraham noticed his sister and walked to her. "Go back to your room, Sophia." "No, brother, I won't. You don't have anything to say here. It's about your life." Abraham tried to make her understand. Brian turned to the people as he gave the responsibility to Abraham to handle Sophia. He saw the curious gazes of his pack members. "You are right. She is my mate. But unfortunately, she can't be your Luna and rule the pack since her Alpha is stepping down." He turned to look at Bruce and gestured for him to come forward to the people. Bruce approached Brian and came to a stop. Brian then declared, "Bruce Morrison is the soon-to-be Alpha of your pack. The crown ceremony for the head Alpha will take place next month. He needs time to prepare for his new role as an Alpha leader. I am hoping that 1 month will be enough to catch everything, as my officials will be there to guide him." He paused for a moment, then took a deep breath and added, "And if my pack faces any problems in the future, I will always be there for you." As soon as Brian declared the things, Beta Robert spoke up. "The assembly is done here. No objections." Brian turned around and looked at his parents. Juliana's eyes were teary. Alpha Harry looked upset. Brian sighed and glanced at Sophia, who was staring at him from a little distance since Abraham was holding her hand. Reaching her, Brian took her hand and walked out onto the balcony. Sophia stared at him when he was taking her to the head Alpha's office room. When he entered the office, he closed the door. Sophia yanked her hand and pushed his chest. Her eyes turned ocean blue as rage was blazing inside. "Why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. Is everything funny to you? You just stepped down from your own position. Are you kidding me?" She yelled at him. Brian stared at her without responding to her. She grabbed his collar and shook her head in denial. Tears streamed out of her eyes. "Why do you love me so much? Why? I don't deserve your love. You did so many things for me. Now you are giving up your power for me. How will you live without it?" She rested her head on his chest while crying. Everything seemed to be shattered in front of her. The man who was the epitome of power would have to let go of his throne. Brian lifted his hands and encircled her with them. With a gentle touch to her hair, he spoke softly. "Don't cry, baby girl. I can lose power, but I can't lose you." Sophia slowly raised her head and looked at him. He shifted his gaze to her tears. His hands reached up to wipe the tears from her cheeks. "I am leaving this place for a month. If I stay here, the people will never accept Bruce as their new alpha. I want him to have the same success as I did." Sophia backed away from him as she asked him, "Leaving this place? Without me?" Brian exhaled deeply after hearing her. He ignored her question and said, "I talked to everyone about it last night. Bruce did wrong, but he agreed to take Mila's responsibility. Mila said she also wanted to move on. She claimed Bruce was innocent because Victor had done all of these things. Alpha Lucas agreed to let Mila be with Bruce. He will give Bruce half of the Moon Valley pack following the crown ceremony. At this point, everyone is satisfied. I solved all of the problems. They can lead a happy life." "And what about you?" she inquired. He averted his gaze away from her and muttered, "I am fine. You need to stay here because I can't take a risk with your life. Your brother is here. I asked him to bring your mother here so you could be with her. Robert, Edger, and Noble will also be here. They will always guard you. I will be back in a month." Sophia did not reply to him as she stared at him. He gazed at her and saw how upset she looked. He stepped toward her and said, "I am sorry, Sophia. I couldn't be a great alpha for you. I promised you that I would give you everything as the Luna of the pack, but I couldn't make you my pack's Luna." With tears in her eyes, she remained silent. He leaned close to her face. She shut her eyes when he kissed her forehead. "Angelina will be with you always. She will take care of your health. You will be fine." After saying that, he left the office, leaving her alone. When Brian went to the living room, his mother rushed to hug him. "My son, don't leave now." "I am not going forever. I will be back in a month, Mom." After talking with everyone, he turned to Bruce and Mila. Mila lowered her head, tears running down her cheeks. Bruce hugged his big brother tightly. "Brother, I don't know if I can." Brian cut him off and said, "You are my brother. I believe you will do better than me. You have always been upset with Dad because he did not make you the head alpha. I made your wish come true today." Bruce shook his head while hugging Brian. "No, brother. I am sorry. Please don't take my words to heart. Forgive me for the past." Brian broke the hug and rubbed his hair. "It's okay. I never took them into consideration. You would not be here today if I had." The brothers then broke into laughter. Their parents watched them with love in their eyes. They were very proud of their elder son. He was not only a good son but also a good brother and mate. "Alpha, the car is ready," Delta Edger said as he entered the pack house. He went out a while ago to clear the crowd so that Brian could leave peacefully. Brian glanced at everyone and smiled at them. He glanced at the corner where his office was. It was as if his eyes were waiting for someone. "Don't worry about her," Angelina assured him. Brian nodded his head in response. Everyone knew what had happened to Sophia. They could not blame Sophia for it. It was all Victor's fault. By the time the council sent Brian a notice, Victor had already left the pack. Brian turned to the door, making his way there. Robert was standing there. Brain stopped next to him. It was as if Robert was upset with him. "I didn't have the other way, you know. If you had your mate with you, you would have done the same, Brian said, patting his best friend's shoulder. Delta Edger came to him and hugged him. We will miss you, bro. Come back before the ceremony. Brian smiled at his friends. He glanced behind them. Delta Edger and Gamma Abraham were standing outside the pack house. Gamma Abraham approached him when he stepped out of the house. My sister is lucky to have you, Alpha. If there had been someone else in your place, he would have marked her to save his position. Look after your sister, Brian said to him. Theta Noble also said he would miss him. They were all upset, not that Brian was leaving the pack house, but because he would no longer be their Alpha. Brian heard Mila's voice. He turned around and saw their families coming outside the pack house for him. Bruce is not a bad guy. He made many mistakes in the past, but I believe the new responsibility will change him into a responsible man. Mila nodded and lowered her head. Bruce was standing beside her. His eyes were fixed on his big brother. Bruce was surprised when, last night, Brian asked him to be the head of Alpha. He could not believe Brian had given up his throne for Sophia. It caused him to wonder if he could do the same for her. He realized that only his brother deserved Sophia because he loved her more than anyone in the world. So he decided to move on and gave his fate a chance with Mila. Brian smiled at Bruce and glanced inside the pack house. He let out a sigh and said, "Take care of your sister-in-law, okay?" Bruce was stunned. Referring that to Sophia was not something he was used to. He smiled at his brother in return and replied, "I will take care of my sister-in-law." Brian seemed to be impressed by his answer. He glanced at his family and turned around to leave. He noticed all the pack fighters had come out of the camp and rushed in the pack house's direction. Since the people outside were left after the announcement, the pack fighters got the chance to meet Brian. "Our king is leaving the kingdom." They said it in unison. There was respect in their eyes as they looked at Brian. Just as Brian was about to say goodbye to them, a voice reached his ears from behind. "I am also leaving with you." Brian did not turn, but his family turned around. They saw Sophia making her way to the entrance. She walked out of the pack house and stood next to Brian. "Sophia, Alpha thinks you should stay," Angelina reminded her. "You are sick. You know that, right?" Juliana asked Sophia. "I know," she mumbled. She looked at the pack fighters who were looking at her now, then turned her head to glance at Brian. Brian looked at her with surprise. She slowly moved her hand and locked her fingers with him before saying, "When the king is leaving the kingdom, how can his queen stay behind? I will follow him wherever he goes. Life or death, I want to be with him." Everyone looked at Brian, waiting for him to say something to Sophia. She did not seem to be listening to anyone. However, Juliana's gaze was fixed on Sophia. She felt that she had misunderstood her. Sophia really loved her son, and she could sacrifice her life for him too. It was clear that she cared about Brian because of the way she responded today, and the fact that she tried to stop him. If she had not been poisoned but tried to stop Brian, everyone would have thought that she was a greedy woman who did not want her husband to lose his position because it would mean that she would lose her own. But the entire thing was about her life. As Brian told everyone last night, if he marked her, she would die. "I curse you as a mother, Victor. You made my son's life miserable. From the start, you wanted his throne. The moon goddess will never forgive you. You will get what you deserve," Juliana said in her heart. "Brian, tell her that." Brian interrupted Alpha Harry and said, "If she wants that, I will take her with me." Everyone cast glances at one another. They realized why he wanted to leave Sophia behind. The reason for this was that he was concerned that he would not be able to control his wolf and would end up marking her. Sophia's lips curved into a small smile as she tightened her grip. Abraham came to hug her and said, "I know Alpha will protect you. Don't worry about Mom. I will handle her. She will be happy that you chose to go with your husband." He released her from the hug and patted her head. Brian looked at her briefly before returning his attention to his pack fighters. Sophia also glanced at them. She noticed Ken among them. He smiled at her, indicating that he was glad she was with Brian. She gave him a smile back. "This is the last time I'm meeting you as your Alpha. When I return, your Alpha will be someone else," Brian said. They responded by lowering their heads. Brian started walking alongside Sophia. The pack fighters moved to make space for them to leave. As Brian passed by, they began to kneel to show their respects to him. Sophia watched how much they wanted Brian as their alpha. The respect they had in their eyes for him was something unbelievable. It proved how much Brian had given to this pack and this pack's members. They did not only fear him, but respect him as well. He was the king who was deeply loved by his kingdom. She was heartbroken that he would have to leave everything because of her. They came to a halt in front of an unfamiliar car. Brian opened the front door for her. She turned to Brian and inquired, "Whose car is this? Where's your driver?" Brian glanced at Bruce before replying to Sophia. "That car is bulletproof, and it is only used for the head alpha. I gave it to Bruce, and my driver will be his starting today." Sophia turned to look at Brian's family. She could see Juliana and Angelina smiling at her. She could expect Angelina's behavior, but she was surprised to see Juliana smile at her. She took a deep breath and realized that Brian's family was her family now. It was time to let go of the bitterness of the past and move on. She waved at them and got into the car. Brian gave Bruce a nod, and Bruce nodded at him in return. Brian then glanced at the pack fighters, who were still on their knees. "Raise!" As if his command brought them to life, they rose in response to his words. "I am leaving my family in your hands. Help your new alpha to become a hard one. He has a lot of potential. Just try to assist him and the officials of the pack." After that, Brian got into his car and drove away from the pack house. Alpha Harry wrapped his arm around Juliana's shoulder and rubbed it. They will be back soon. Angelina's eyes were still on the large black iron gate that Brian's car had just passed. Her eyes glowed emerald as she spoke. It was fate that separated them, and when they reunited, they were going through a difficult time. But who knows what fate has planned for them in the future? Maybe this is not their end, but rather a new beginning. In the silent car, Brian was driving the car. He had his eyes glued to the road. Sophia was sitting in the seat with an angry face. "Did you decide to come with me to show me your angry face?" he asked, glancing at her. Sophia did not reply to him. She rolled her eyes in response. "Did you just roll your eyes at me?" he questioned. With mocking eyes, she shot back, "Brian Morrison, it would be best if you focused on the road instead of my eyes." Brian smirked but listened to her and focused on the road. "What can I do? My mind was completely blown away after seeing your ocean blue eyes." Her eyes widened as she blinked. "Did he just flirt with me? Can't he see I am angry because he almost left me alone?" she thought. She had no idea where they were going. She only knew that she was going with the man she loved. Hours passed, and the car took a different route. She observed the road and found it familiar until the car entered the forest. Her lips parted in surprise. She turned to him and asked, "Are we going to that house?" He glanced at her. "Why? Don't you want to?" She immediately shook her head and replied, "No, I really want to go to that house with you and live there." He raised an eyebrow and said, "I see, you look excited, but all I remember is that you said you did not want to be." Sophia turned away from him, realizing that he had transformed into a savage man. He liked to tease her every single moment. She leaned her back against the seat and remembered how he kissed her forehead before leaving his office room. She closed her eyes with a smile. "He still loves me," she thought. The car stopped in front of the wooden house. Because it was daylight, the house appeared even more stunning. Sophia got out of the car quickly and looked around the house while walking. She was thrilled that she would be living here with Brian for a month. She raised her head and looked at the balcony on the back side of the house. It brought back memories of Brian confessing to her how he felt. She blushed and looked away from there. She returned to the front of the house and noticed the door was open and Brian was not near the car. She understood that he had entered the house already, so she made her way to the door. She walked into the house but saw no one. But then she heard the sound of the door closing. She turned around and saw Brian smirking at her. He was behind the door, so she could not see him when she entered. His smirk sent shivers down her spine because they were both alone in the house. The way he was looking at her made her heart race. When he stepped toward her, she took a few steps back. Her back was pressed against a wooden pillar. He put his hands beside her head to cage her between his arms and asked, "Now where will you escape from this beast, baby girl?" The sensation of his warm breath touching her face caused Sophia to take a deep breath. She had seen how concerned this man was for her over the last few days. Last night might have been a disaster for him. "Can I ask you something?" she asked in a low tone. I want to hear about your past. I learned this from Alpha Lucas, but I want to hear it all from you." After hearing her, he stepped backward. She thought he got mad at her, but she felt relieved when he turned to the kitchen and said, "Let's prepare lunch while we talk." She followed him when he entered the kitchen. She thought back to the day she had come here with him. That day she refused to make him food. She came to regret it. "Let me prepare lunch for you," she said, walking past him. He paused his steps and asked, "You don't have to. You are not my maid." She turned to him and gave him a sad look. "I am deeply sorry for that day. I was just—" She could not find the words to express it. He chuckled at her before placing his hand on her head. "It's okay." She smiled when she saw him smiling. She had a feeling she wanted to see this man smile all the time. He would go above and beyond for her. While cooking for lunch, they had a conversation about his past for the first time. "I went to the Moon Valley Pack for a visit years ago. I caught Mila crying in the pack house as Victor dragged her to his room. She was really young at that time, and she did not have the courage to complain about Victor, since their grandfather really loved him." Sophia cast a glance at him. "I think Mila, she loves you." Brian raised an eyebrow at her remark. While leaning his back against the kitchen counter, he shook his head at her in response. "No, she doesn't. She is just infatuated with me. I rescued her. Because of this, she always considers me to be her savior. His parents also think that. I told Bruce everything last night. I'm glad he was willing to accept Mila after learning about her past. I just hope in this 1 month they get closer and realize the bond." She could see hope in his eyes. "Then," she asked, "then I complained about that bastard to his father and grandfather in front of some key members of that pack. Maybe that hurt their ego, and they planned to ruin my reputation." "It's okay if you don't want to tell me about Victor's mate," she said, assuring that she did not need to know. He smirked at her. "Why? Do you think I have had any encounters with her?" She was taken aback. "No," she hurriedly replied. Brian's eyes observed her reaction, and then he let out a laugh. "Don't be scared. I was in my right mind, even though I was drunk. She tried to drug me with an aphrodisiac and wanted to sleep with me. She herself said that Victor had sent her to many other alphas to get some projects that his grandfather wanted. However, that woman is just like his type, a whore. I warned her that I would kill her and then let her go. Nevertheless, the following day, she showed others the photos of me and her while we were in the bedroom of that pack house. She claimed that I had raped her. I told others that I was not lying. But who would believe me? Of course, they believed her because she was a woman and talked about her dignity. But I knew they were plotting against me. I got mad and killed her in front of everyone." Sophia stared at him when he was talking. She could see how fierce he was while talking about the incident. She hissed when she realized she had a cut on her finger. It dawned on her that she had been staring at Brian while she was chopping vegetables. She dropped the knife and shook her finger in pain. Brian immediately grabbed her hand and brought her finger close to his mouth. She gasped when he put her finger in his mouth. He licked her finger to heal her wound. She bit her lower lip when he glanced at her. He let go of her hand. She curled her fingers when she noticed the wound had healed quickly. She returned to prepare lunch. In half an hour, she had the table set. Brian helped her, and they sat at the table together. The entire time that Brian was eating lunch, he was staring at her. On the other hand, she blushed and ignored his gaze. When the sun began to set, she thought about changing her dress. But she came to the realization that she could not bring her clothes with her to this place. They only had Brian's luggage with them. The focus of her attention shifted to Brian, who was smoking on the balcony. She thought about something and rushed to the bathroom. When she came out, she was in a long white shirt. She felt embarrassed, wondering if Brian would mind if he saw her wearing his shirt. She went to the balcony and hugged the man from behind. Brian crushed his cigarette and placed it in the ashtray that rested on the railing's stand. He then turned around and faced her. Sophia hugged his torso and asked, "Are you still mad at me, mate?" She raised her head after unwrapping her hands from his body. His eyes moved from her face and shifted to his white shirt that she was wearing. The shirt appeared to be too big on her, but she looked ravishing. "No, I am not," he muttered. "I know why you are behaving well with me. It's because I am dying, right?" she asked. He cupped her cheeks and replied, "You can't die. I will never let you die." Gazing into his profound eyes, Sophia uttered, "I love you, mate." He moved his thumb away from her cheek and placed it on her lips instead. She closed her eyes when he swept his thumb over her soft lips. He closed his eyes and leaned down to her lips, and they were inches away. But then his eyes flung open, and he turned his head away. She was stunned. "What happened?" He let out a deep breath and asked, "Did you really disgust me with my kiss and touch that night?" Instead of responding to his question, she stood on tiptoes and pressed her lips against his. It was just a smooch. She flushed and backed down. "I swear on my life, I never felt disgusted by them. I was merely enraged because I misinterpreted you and—" As if he had already gotten his answer, he did not let her finish and smashed his lips on hers. His lips engulfed hers completely. After giving her a passionate kiss, he sucked her lower lip and whispered, "I just want to forget the image of that man kissing you. You have no idea how badly I want to kill that man for everything." She wrapped her hands around his neck and asked, "How will I remove the memory from your mind? What if I kill him in front of your eyes? Will it work?" A sly grin appeared on his lips as he tightened his grip around her waist and pressed her chest against his, then replied, "That will do, I guess." Days passed as Sophia and Brian began to live in the forest house together happily. Sophia was pleased to get a chance where Brian was only around her and not buried with work. She most of the time admired him whenever he went to the forest to train himself. Sophia once asked him to teach her how to fight. Brian at first refused her because he believed she should only rest and drink the potion that Angelina had sent her through Beta Robert. Robert said it was a special potion that would make Sophia healthy and give her wolf power to withstand any kind of harm. Sophia managed to persuade Brian to train her. She stated that she wished to be a strong woman capable of standing alongside him, regardless of whether she was the Luna of the pack. Brian could not resist her request and agreed to teach him his fighting skills, which she could never learn from anyone else. It was afternoon. Sophia was standing beside a tree. There were a few wooden stakes piercing the tree next to her. She held one and turned to face her target, a different tree some distance away. With her keen eyes, she drew her hand back and threw the stake forward. With a groan, she closed her eyes in disappointment. It was the 9th time she came close but failed to hit the target. She realized she could hit the targets closer to her, but not the ones farther away. "I can't do it," she mumbled as she huffed. At that time, a pair of hands slowly wrapped around her waist. She closed her eyes in reaction to the touch. Her back was pressed against a hard, bare chest. "Brian." Her soft voice almost caused Brian to tighten his grip around her. His hands moved to touch her bare thighs beneath the black shirt. She was wearing one of his shirts. Though Beta Robert had come to give her luggage and Angelina's potion the next time they came here, Sophia preferred to wear Brian's shirts the most of the time. Sophia grabbed his hands to stop him from roaming on her skin. "Can't you see I am trying to do something? Don't disturb me," she said, moving his hands shyly. She liked how he always teased her, touching her and kissing her. But he never slept with her after they had come to this forest house. The reason for this was his fear of losing himself to his wolf. He said he once almost marked her, so he was afraid that if he had sex with her, his wolf would take over and mark her. His wolf was dominant and was desperate to mark his mate. So it was like an inner war for Brian, who had to fight with his own wolf. "This is not how you should hit your target," Brian said, pulling her back to him from behind. He removed a stake from the tree, grabbed Sophia's hand. He then held it together with her. He raised her hand and said, "Stay focused on your goal. not the stake. Assume it was your most despised foe, and your life depended on killing it. Sophia heard him and concentrated on the target. Brian moved her hand and threw the stake toward the far tree with a force that she had never tried before. Her eyes widened as the stake pierced the center of the tree, which was far away. It was not even her intended target. Her jaw dropped at his skill. She turned to him with wide eyes. Brian let out a chuckle as he placed his finger under her chin and closed her mouth. "Your jaw should only drop after seeing something else," he said, winking at her. She realized what he was trying to say. She immediately pushed against his chest and attempted to kick him. He laughed and dodged the kick. "It's time for our training. Don't try to mess with me, Alpha Brian," she said. But her eyes betrayed her as they shifted on his perfect abs. They were like calling her to run her hands over them. He looked so hot shirtless. He tucked his hands into his training pants and muttered, "I am not in the mood for training today. You changed my mind." "About what?" she asked, frowning at him. She gulped when she saw his sly grin. With slow steps, he approached her. She took steps back until her body pressed against a tree. He did not let her move as he stopped in front of her. He lowered his head to her level and murmured, "I think I should take slow steps to get myself under control." "What do you mean?" she questioned, blinking her eyes. The look he was giving her made her blush even more. They kissed every day, and Brian had always tried to avoid getting any deeper with her. So, seeing his intense gaze, her cheeks reddened. He tilted her head and kissed her chin before replying, "I want to taste you, baby girl." She felt her breath hitch. He did not even let her say anything as he lifted her into his arms and carried her to their home. She avoided his gaze the entire time, hugging his neck and concealing her red face. She felt a rush of excitement running down her spine, mixed with shyness. As soon as he entered the house, he went upstairs to the bedroom and pressed her against the bed. His lips smashed against hers, and his hands began to run down her bare legs. She moaned as he broke the kiss and whispered in her ear, "I want to kiss every single place on your body to demonstrate my love for you." After that, he started kissing her neck while playing his fingers on her panty in an attempt to get to her essence. With a hiss, she grabbed his hand and tried to stop him. He slowly moved away from her neck to look directly at her. He assumed she was stopping him because she didn't want that. "If you don't want to, I won't." She placed her finger on his lips. Her eyes glowed with lust as she mumbled, "I also want to please you, mate." When he heard her, Brian paused. Sophia pushed him away from herself. She sat up and gazed at him. She could not let out a word from her mouth, as she was feeling embarrassed to say anything. He leaned in her direction after sitting up. He placed his hand on her cheek and asked, "Did you mean you want to suck me?" She gulped as she glanced at him. He had a smirk on his face. She nodded her head without saying anything. She could see his smirk deepening with her response. She took a deep breath and decided to take control of him. She pushed his chest, pressing him against the mattress. She got on his lap in a strangling position and leaned down on him. He was stunned by her sudden strength. He almost forgot that she was also a powerful wolf. She shifted her gaze away from his face and began running her fingers over his abs. She leaned on his chest and began to kiss, slowly moving down. He groaned as her soft lips moved against his skin. Just as her lips approached his navel, he grabbed her neck and drew her back to his face. He kissed her roughly, and she returned the kiss with equal passion. She moaned at the sudden urge to fill herself in. But she realized that Brian did not want to do that. It was because of her life. She recalled how many cold showers he had to take to avoid having sex with her. He always tried to control himself, even though they made out almost every day and slept in the same bed while hugging. So today, she only wanted to thank this man for sacrificing his desire for the love he had for her. As she broke off the kiss, he inquired, "Are you sure?" She smiled at him, nodding her head, which caused their lips to brush again. "Yes, Alpha, I want to suck you," she whispered against his lips. "Why are you hot, baby girl?" He groaned and spanked her back. She moaned when he ran his palm on her skin after spanking. She did not waste any more time and moved down. Her hands reached the waistband of his pants. She bit her bottom lip, glancing at Brian. His eyes were on hers. She looked at him and saw his pleased expression. Her eyes were fixed on him, and she felt satisfied by his reaction. He could see her eyes, which were teary. She felt tired as she went back to his chest and rested her head on it. She hugged him and then closed her eyes. "You did well, baby girl," he said, kissing her head. Just as she was about to fall asleep from exhaustion, his body turned her around and pressed her back against the mattress. She gasped when he began to unbutton the shirt she was wearing. "It's my time," he said, winking at her. Her lips parted when he did not wait to open all of the buttons and pull the shirt off her head. She was in peace-colored lingerie. She looked hot in that. He clenched his jaw and muttered, "You are so fuckable. I'm afraid very soon I will lose myself, but I know I will never hurt you." After saying that, he took off her lingering, leaving her naked on the bed. She felt shy when his eyes roamed around her body. Brian's eyes were fixed on her as he smirked while enjoying the taste of her moonflower. Brian moved his head. His smirk did not leave his lips, demonstrating that he enjoyed tasting her. He kissed her navel, moving up to reach her head. When she found him closer to her face, she immediately wrapped her hands around his neck, embracing him. "I am so sorry, Brian. For me, you are stopping yourself. You also have some desires. I can't give you that," she said, holding him tightly. Tears began to fall from his eyes and he felt them on his neck. He broke the embrace and wiped her cheeks. He kissed her forehead and said with a soft tone, "Love and sex are not the same thing, same. I am not a lover who is after your body. I love your soul. You are with me, and I will do anything for you as long as I can see you every day."